Look, I need to be honest with you right from the start. When I enrolled at the Galactic Military Academy on Station Viridia, I thought I had seen everything the universe could throw at me. My name is Krell, and I am a Thoraxian, which means I have 4 arms, excellent reflexes, and the kind of natural combat instinct that gets you recruited young, very young. I was confident, maybe too confident, when I walked into that orientation hall with 300 other cadets from 70 different species. Then I saw her. The human stood near the back of the assembly, looking almost bored, while our commandant, a massive Kraloth with teeth like daggers, screamed about discipline and sacrifice. She was tall for her species, lean, with dark skin, and hair pulled back so tight it could have been a weapon itself. But what really got my attention, what made all 4 of my eyes focus on her like targeting lasers, was the scar on her neck. It was not a clean scar. Not the kind you get from medical procedures or even honorable combat. This thing looked like something had tried to rip her throat out and had almost succeeded. The tissue was raised, twisted, and ran from just below her right ear down to her collarbone in a jagged line that seemed to pulse with its own story. I know, staring is rude, but in a station full of beings who had earned their way into the most prestigious military academy in the galaxy, scars were like medals. They told stories. And this one was screaming. Training started the next cycle, and the instructors wasted no time separating the capable from the cannon fodder. We were divided into mixed species units, probably to teach us cooperation or humility or some other virtue I was not particularly interested in learning. Naturally, because the universe has a sense of humor darker than a black hole, I ended up in Unit 17 with the scarred human. Her name was Mara Kozlov. She did not talk much during those first few days, which was fine, because I talked enough for both of us. The other members of our unit included Voss, a Peltharian whose species communicated primarily through scent, which made every briefing an olfactory nightmare, and Jix, a small insectoid chitic who could calculate trajectory angles faster than our targeting computers. But Mara, she just watched, observed. Those human eyes of hers, brown and impossibly deep, took in everything with the kind of patience that predators have before they strike. It was during our 4th training session, a combat simulation in the lower decks, that I finally could not help myself anymore. We were supposed to be practicing room-clearing techniques, moving through a mock enemy vessel and neutralizing holographic targets. Mara had just executed a move that defied about 6 different tactical protocols I had memorized. She had rolled, not dove, rolled under a barrage of simulated plasma fire, come up with her training rifle already aimed, and put down 3 targets in less than 2 seconds. When we regrouped at the checkpoint, I sidled up to her, trying to look casual despite having 4 arms and skin that changed colors with my mood, which at that moment was probably showing way too much curious purple. That was impressive, I said, which was true. Completely against regulation, but impressive. She glanced at me, one eyebrow raised. Regulation assumes you are fighting something predictable. Fair point. I paused, then just went for it. What is that mark on your neck? The temperature in the room seemed to drop about 10 degrees. Voss released a smell that roughly translated to, "You idiot" in Peltharian. Jix's antennae flattened against his head. Even the holographic projectors seemed to dim. Mara's hand moved to her neck, fingers tracing the scar almost unconsciously. For a moment, I thought she might hit me. Humans were surprisingly violent when provoked, and I had definitely provoked. Then she smiled. Not a happy smile. Not even really a friendly smile. More like the smile a predator gives when it remembers a particularly satisfying hunt. "A kill that took too long," she said simply. That was it. No elaboration. No story. Just 5 words that somehow contained more menace than anything our combat instructors had ever screamed at us. That is not really an answer," I stammered, which was embarrassing because Thoraxians are not supposed to stammer. "It is the only answer you are getting today, Krell." She checked her rifle's power cell, completely calm. "Maybe if you stop asking stupid questions during training, you will earn the full version." Stupid questions? I had asked one question. One perfectly reasonable question about a scar that looked like she had gone 10 rounds with a chainsaw and barely won. But fine. Challenge accepted. Over the next several weeks, I made it my personal mission to prove I was worthy of Mara's story. Not because I had nothing better to do, although our downtime was depressingly minimal, but because something about that scar haunted me. It was not just a wound. It was a warning, written in scar tissue and bad memories. I excelled in every training exercise. When we had weapons drills, I scored in the top 5%. Hand-to-hand combat? My forearms gave me an advantage that I exploited ruthlessly. Tactical simulations? I memorized fleet formations and strategic doctrines until I could recite them in my sleep. Mara noticed. She had to notice because we were in the same unit, and I was basically showing off like a juvenile trying to attract a mate. Except this was definitely not that. This was purely about respect and maybe a little bit of competitiveness. "You are trying very hard," she said one evening in the mess hall. We were eating, or rather, I was eating something that resembled protein paste, while she methodically consumed what humans called a sandwich, with the same focus she brought to everything else. "Is it working?" I asked. "Depends on what you are trying to accomplish." "The story, about your neck." She took another bite, chewed slowly, swallowed. The scar moved with the motion of her throat, a constant reminder of whatever violence had marked her. "You really want to know?" "I really want to know." "Fine." She set down her food, which was when I knew this was serious because humans loved their meal times. "But not here. Too many ears. Meet me in Training Bay 7 after lights out. Come alone." That should have been my first warning. The mysterious meetup, the dramatic timing, the whole atmosphere of impending revelation. But I was young and curious, and probably too stupid to recognize danger when it sent me a formal invitation. Training Bay 7 was in the older section of Station Viridia, where the gravity generators had not been updated in about 40 cycles and everything smelled like recycled air and poor maintenance. I arrived exactly on time, which meant Mara was already there, sitting on a supply crate with her legs crossed, and that same unreadable expression on her face. "You came," she said, as if there had been doubt. "You invited me. Would be rude not to show. Politeness. Interesting quality for someone studying to kill efficiently." She hopped down from the crate, landing with that peculiar grace humans had when they were not being clumsy disasters. "You want to know about this?" She pointed at her neck. "Then you need context. You need to understand what humans were before we joined your Galactic Council and started playing nice with the rest of the universe." "I know human history," I protested. "First contact was 70 years ago. You were confined to one planet, killing each other over resources and ideology, and sometimes just because you felt like it. Then the Althari made contact, and everything changed." Mara laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Everything changed, sure. We got your technology, your medicine, your fancy faster than light, travel. We stopped being primitive warmongers and became civilized members of galactic society." She moved closer, and I noticed for the first time how much taller she was than me despite having only 2 arms. "But here is what your history lessons did not teach you, Krell. Just because we stopped fighting each other did not mean we forgot how. And just because we joined the galaxy did not mean every human suddenly wanted to hold hands and sing peaceful songs." "What are you saying?" "I am saying that Earth did not unify peacefully. I am saying there were groups, factions, entire militias who rejected first contact, who saw the aliens, pardon me, saw species like yours as invaders, as threats, as enemies." Her fingers traced the scar again. "I am saying that before I came to this academy, before I wore this uniform, I spent 3 years hunting down one of those groups in the mountains of what used to be called Siberia." The way she said it, so matter of fact, so casual, sent something cold sliding down my spine. "You were a soldier before this." "Not exactly. I was 15 when it started. Just a kid, living in a settlement that happened to be in the wrong place when the purists decided to make a statement." She paused, and for the first time I saw something flicker in those brown eyes. Pain, maybe, or rage that had been compressed into something denser. "They killed 47 people in 6 hours, including my parents." Oh no. "Mara, I did not, I should not have, you asked." Her voice was sharp enough to cut. "So now you listen. The purists operated in cells, small groups that hit settlements, and anyone they deemed collaborators with alien species. They were brutal, efficient, and completely insane. After the attack I had two choices: run away and hide, or learn to fight back. She smiled, that predator smile again. I chose poorly, according to some. You hunted them. I hunted them, joined an Earth Defense Force unit that specialized in, let us call it, asymmetric response. We tracked them through tundra and forests, through abandoned cities and underground bunkers. We became very good at finding people who did not want to be found. She moved to a weapons rack on the wall, pulling down a training knife and testing its balance. Their leader was a man named Volkov. Real piece of work. Former military, brilliant tactician, completely committed to the idea that humanity should stand alone. He had evaded capture for 4 years, killed hundreds, and became something of a legend among the remaining purist cells. You found him. Eventually, took me and my team 8 months of tracking, analyzing patterns, predicting movements. When we finally cornered him, it was in an old research station buried in the ice. Just him and 3 bodyguards against our 6-person unit. The knife spun in her hand, a casual display of skill that probably should have worried me more than it did. We breached at dawn. My teammates took the bodyguards. I went after Volkov myself. Maybe that was arrogance, maybe it was rage, maybe I just wanted to look him in the eyes and ask why he had killed my parents. What happened? He was better than I expected. Her hand went to her neck again, and suddenly the scar made terrible sense. We fought for maybe 3 minutes, which does not sound like long until you are actually trying to kill someone who is trying to kill you back. He got his knife here, she indicated the scar, millimeters from my carotid artery. If he had been faster, if I had been slower, this would be a very different conversation. But you won. I won. The way she said it made victory sound like the worst possible outcome. It took too long. By the time I put him down, he had activated a distress beacon. 2 more purist cells showed up within the hour. We had to fight our way out through 50 hostiles with limited ammunition and 1 member of our team bleeding out. She set the knife back on the rack, with careful precision. We made it, barely. The mission was classified as a success. I got a commendation and a scar that reminds me every single day that hesitation kills. That mercy is a luxury you cannot afford when facing something that wants you dead. The silence stretched between us like a physical thing. Outside the training bay, I could hear the station's environmental systems humming, the distant sound of other cadets laughing somewhere, the normal sounds of life continuing while Mara's story hung in the air like smoke. That is why you are here, I said quietly. At the academy, that is why I am here. The Defense Force decided I needed proper military training, structure, discipline, probably also therapy, but that part is optional. She looked at me directly, and I saw something in her expression that made my blood run cold and hot simultaneously. So now you know, Krell, that mark on my neck? It is a reminder that killing is not always quick, that sometimes the right choice is also the hardest choice, that humans might be part of your galactic civilization now, but we remember what it was like when we were not. I should have said something profound, something that acknowledged the weight of what she had shared. Instead, my mouth went dry and all I could manage was, "Thank you for telling me. You earned it." Barely. She moved toward the exit, then paused. "One more thing. Tomorrow's training exercise? The live fire drill in the obstacle course?" "What about it?" Her smile returned, and this time it had genuine warmth in it, which somehow made it more terrifying. "Try to keep up." She left me standing there in Training Bay 7, surrounded by equipment and the lingering presence of a story that would probably give me nightmares for weeks. And you know what the worst part was? I was not scared of Mara. I was scared of whatever else in the universe might be strong enough, crazy enough, or stupid enough to give her another scar like that. Because if that kill had taken too long, I did not want to see what a quick one looked like. The live fire drill turned out to be exactly as horrible as Mara's smile had promised. And by horrible, I mean spectacular, terrifying, and educational in ways that made me question every life choice that had led me to this moment. Let me set the scene for you. The obstacle course was built in one of Station Viridia's largest training modules, a space roughly the size of a small frigate's interior. The instructors had filled it with everything designed to simulate actual combat conditions. Smoke grenades that reduced visibility to practically nothing, holographic enemies that could actually hurt you if their shots connected, thanks to some delightful pain feedback technology, moving platforms, collapsing corridors, and my personal favorite, a section flooded with waist-deep water that somehow smelled worse than Voss on a bad day. Our unit was running the course against Unit 22, which included some of the Academy's top-ranked cadets. Their leader was a Krell named Thex, who had made it very clear during previous exercises that he considered humans to be soft, slow, and generally inferior in every measurable way. This was going to be entertaining. We started at opposite ends of the course with one objective: reach the central control point and hold it for 60 seconds. Simple, brutal, and guaranteed to separate the competent from the casualties. "Krell," Mara said as we checked our weapons at the starting gate. "How many arms do you have?" "4, obviously." I flexed them for emphasis, probably showing off again. "Good. You are going to need all of them." She loaded her rifle with movements so practiced they looked like meditation. "When we hit the water section, you take point. Your species handles aquatic environments better than mine. What about you?" "I will be right behind you, making sure nothing unpleasant catches up." She glanced at Voss and Jix. "Voss, your scent tracking is useless in the smoke, so stick to visual confirmation only." "Jix, I need you on elevated positions calling out enemy movements. Can you do that?" Jix's antennae vibrated with what I had learned was excitement. "Affirmative. My compound eyes can process multiple threat vectors simultaneously." "Show off," I muttered, which was rich coming from me. The starting klaxon blared, and suddenly we were moving. The first section was straightforward, just a corridor with basic cover and a few holographic targets. Mara cleared them with efficient headshots, moving forward in a crouch that somehow looked both cautious and aggressive. I provided covering fire with 2 weapons, which was one of the few advantages of having 4 arms, and we reached the smoke section in under a minute. That was when things got interesting. The smoke was thick enough to cut with a knife, reducing visibility to maybe 2 meters. Standard protocols said to slow down, move carefully, maintain unit cohesion. Mara had apparently never read standard protocol, or more likely, had read it and decided it was for people who wanted to live boring lives. She moved through that smoke like she could see through it, her rifle up and ready, every step calculated. I followed, trying to match her pace, and failing miserably because humans were somehow both clumsy and graceful in ways that made no sense. "Contact left," Jix's voice crackled through our comm units. He had found a perch somewhere above us, those compound eyes doing their job. Mara pivoted smoothly, fired 3 times, and kept moving. I heard the holographic enemies deactivate with disappointed electronic whines. She had not even broken stride. "How did you know where they were?" I asked, stumbling over some debris. "Sound. Breathing. The way air moves around solid objects." She said it like it was obvious, like everyone could echolocate through smoke using combat intuition and borderline supernatural awareness. "Also," Jix told us, "pay attention to your team." "Right. Pay attention, while also not dying." Simple. We hit the water section, and I took point as ordered. The water was cold, which did not bother me because Thoraxian physiology handled temperature variations well, but I could see Mara's jaw clench as she waded in behind me. Humans and cold water apparently had a difficult relationship. "You good?" I asked. "Peachy, keep moving." That was when Unit 22 decided to make their presence known in the loudest way possible. Plasma bolts, the training kind that hurt like hell but did not actually kill you, started impacting the water around us. The shots came from elevated positions, which meant Thex had gotten his team into advantageous firing positions faster than anticipated. "Down," Mara snapped, and we all dropped into the water just as a barrage passed overhead. Underwater, with my natural ability to hold my breath for extended periods, I could see the situation clearly. Not good. We were pinned, exposed, and Unit 22 had the high ground. Thex was probably up there gloating in whatever language Krell used for gloating. Then Mara surfaced next to me, water streaming off her face, and I saw that look in her eyes. The same look she probably had when she was hunting purists through frozen wasteland. The look that said someone was about to have a very bad day. Krell, Voss, suppressing fire on my mark. "Jix, find me a route to that upper platform." Her voice was calm, almost conversational. "I am going to have a conversation with Thex about tactical positioning." "That platform is 12 meters up," I protested. "How are you going to reach it?" She smiled. That smile. Creatively. What happened next would have been impossible if I had not seen it with all four of my eyes. On her mark, Voss and I popped up and started laying down covering fire, our training weapons lighting up the smoke-filled air with simulated plasma. Jix called out a route that involved jumping between moving platforms, climbing a partially collapsed wall section, and apparently defying at least 3 laws of physics. Mara went for it. She moved like liquid violence, like water flowing uphill, out of pure spite. The platforms were moving in patterns designed to be nearly impossible to navigate. She navigated them anyway, timing each jump with precision that would have made our instructors weep with pride, or possibly fear. When she reached the wall section, she used cracks in the surface and exposed conduits as handholds, climbing with the same intensity she brought to everything else. Unit 22 finally noticed what was happening, but by then it was too late. Mara reached the upper platform, rolled behind cover, and suddenly Thex's advantageous position became a trap. I could not see exactly what happened up there because smoke and distance, and also I was busy not getting shot by the remaining members of Unit 22. But I heard Thex's roar of surprise, heard the sound of close-quarters combat, heard someone, probably Thex, hit the ground with a heavy thud that shook the platform. 3 seconds later, Mara's voice came through the comm. Platform secured. Advance to central control point. Path is clear. We advanced. The central control point was a raised platform in the middle of the course, and holding it meant being exposed from multiple angles. Terrible defensive position, which was exactly why the instructors used it. They wanted to see how we handled pressure. Unit 22 was not done yet. Thex, possibly concussed but definitely angry, had rallied his remaining team members for one last push. They came at us from 3 directions simultaneously, which was actually impressive coordination for a unit that had just lost their commanding position and their leader's dignity. 60 seconds, Mara said, checking her chrono. We just need to hold for 60 seconds. Just 60 seconds, I repeated, firing at advancing holograms while real opponents closed in from multiple angles. Easy. It was not easy. Voss went down first, tagged by a lucky shot from a Peltharian on Thex's team. Jix lasted longer, his small size making him a difficult target, but eventually numerical superiority won out and he took a hit that deactivated his training vest. That left me and Mara back to back on the control point platform, with about 30 seconds left on the clock and half of Unit 22 very motivated to end our holding action. This might be a good time for one of your creative solutions, I said, using 2 arms to reload while firing with the other 2. Working on it. She dropped one opponent with a shot that should not have been possible given the angle, then shifted to cover my blind spot. How do you feel about aggressive counterattacks? Define aggressive. The kind where we stop defending and start making them regret their life choices. 20 seconds left. Unit 22 was regrouping for a final push. We were outnumbered, exposed and running low on ammunition. Tactically speaking, we were doomed. I am in, I said, because apparently being around Mara for a few weeks had permanently damaged the part of my brain responsible for self-preservation. Good. On 3, we split up. You take left, I take right. Fast, loud, and utterly unreasonable. She ejected her spent power cell and loaded a fresh one. They are expecting us to hunker down and defend. So we do the opposite. That is a terrible plan. You have a better one? I did not have a better one. 3, Mara counted. I saw Thex positioning his team for the final assault. He had numbers, position, and momentum. Everything that should have guaranteed victory. 2. Mara checked her rifle one last time, that scar on her neck standing out against her skin like a reminder of every impossible thing she had survived. 1. We moved. I went left, all 4 arms occupied with weapons or reloading, making myself as big and loud and Thoraxian as possible. My natural combat instincts, the ones my species was famous for, kicked in hard. I was not trying to win. I was trying to be enough of a threat that Unit 22 had to respond. Mara went right, and if I was a distraction, she was a disaster. She moved through Thex's team like a storm, taking down targets with combinations of precise shots and close-quarters techniques that definitely violated several academy rules about excessive force in training exercises. I saw her disarm one opponent, use their own weapon to tag another, then throw the empty rifle at a third hard enough to knock them flat. 10 seconds left. Thex himself charged at her, probably done with tactics and fully committed to just overwhelming the human through sheer physical superiority. He was bigger, stronger, had natural armor plating and teeth that could bite through hull plating. Mara dodged his first attack, ducked under his second, and then did something I would not have believed if I had not witnessed it personally. She used his own momentum against him, redirecting his charge so that he stumbled past her, then delivered a strike to the back of his knee that sent him crashing down. She put her training rifle against his back, right where his vest sensors were most sensitive. "You are eliminated, Thex. Stay down. 5 seconds left." The remaining members of Unit 22, seeing their leader defeated and their numerical advantage evaporated, hesitated. Just for a moment, just long enough. The timer hit 0. The control point platform lit up with green lights. Victory indicators flashed throughout the training module. "Exercise complete," the automated system announced. "Unit 17 has successfully held the objective. Mission accomplished." I collapsed onto the platform, all 4 arms spread out, breathing hard and wondering if this was what cardiac arrest felt like for Thoraxians. Mara walked back to the control point, not even breathing heavily, and extended a hand to help me up. "Told you to keep up," she said. That was insane. I took her hand with one of mine, hauling myself to my feet. "You are insane. This whole unit is insane. Welcome to humanity." She grinned, and for the first time it looked like an actual happy expression rather than a threat display. "We make terrible decisions with excellent results." The training module doors opened, and our instructors entered. The lead instructor, a Velteran named Quasar who had fought in the border wars and lost half her tentacles doing it, looked at our unit, then at the scattered and defeated members of Unit 22, then back at us. "Cadet Kozlov," she said slowly, "did you throw a rifle at Cadet Fen?" "Yes, instructor." "That is against regulations." "Yes, instructor." It was also effective, creative, and demonstrated excellent situational awareness. Quasar's tentacles rippled with what might have been approval or possibly indigestion. "Do not do it again." "Yes, instructor." After the debriefing, medical checks, and the mandatory post-exercise review, where instructors gleefully pointed out every mistake we made and a few we did not know were possible, I found Mara in the observation deck. She was looking out at the stars, at the infinite darkness punctuated by distant lights that represented entire civilizations. "Question," I said, joining her at the viewport. "You are full of questions, Krell. This one is important." I paused, trying to find the right words. "That story you told me, about Volkov and the scar, about the kill that took too long. Do you regret it?" She was quiet for a long moment, her reflection in the viewport showing that same complicated expression I had seen when she first told me about Siberia and purists and the price of hesitation. "Every day," she said finally. "I regret that it had to happen. I regret what it cost, what it took from me, what it turned me into." Her fingers traced the scar again, that unconscious gesture that seemed to ground her. "But do I regret surviving? Do I regret learning to fight, to adapt, to become someone who could protect others from experiencing what I experienced? No, that I do not regret." So the scar is a reminder. The scar is a promise. She turned to look at me directly. "A promise that I will never hesitate again when it matters, that I will never let someone I care about pay for my weakness, that every second counts when lives are on the line." I thought about that, about what it meant to carry that kind of weight. You know, when I first asked you about it, I thought it was just a cool scar, a war story, something to make you look tough. And now I understand it is a gravestone, a memorial for the person you used to be before you learned what killing costs. I flexed all 4 of my arms, still sore from the exercise. "Also, it explains why you are absolutely terrifying in combat situations," she laughed. A real laugh this time, without the edge of darkness that usually accompanied her humor. "You handled yourself well today, Krell. All that showing off, all that training to prove you were worthy of the story. Turns out, you actually earned it. High praise from the human who defies physics and tactical doctrine simultaneously. I prefer to think of it as expanding the definition of possible." She stretched, joints popping in ways that made me wince. "The Academy thinks they are training us to be officers, to lead fleets, and make strategic decisions. But you know what they are really teaching us? What? That the galaxy is full of species who have forgotten what it means to fight for survival. Everyone is so civilized now, so dependent on technology and protocol and chains of command. Her expression hardened slightly. But out there, beyond the safe borders and protected space, there are still things that want us dead. Pirates, rogue factions, remnants of the old wars. And when we face them, all the civilization in the universe will not matter as much as the willingness to do what is necessary. You think there is going to be another war? I think peace is the gap between conflicts, and we are training in a gap. She pointed at the stars. Somewhere out there, someone is planning something terrible. Someone is building weapons, gathering forces, plotting to tear down what we have built. And when that happens, the galaxy is going to need people who understand that sometimes the right choice is also the hardest choice. People like you, people like us, she corrected. You asked me what the mark on my neck means. Now you know. It means I survived something that should have killed me. It means I learned that mercy has limits. It means that when the next threat comes, when the next impossible situation arrives, I will be ready. She paused. We will be ready. Standing there in the observation deck, looking out at the infinite darkness with a human who carried the weight of past violence like armor, I realized something important. The galaxy was full of species, each with their own strengths and histories. But humans? Humans were the ones who had climbed out of planetary gravity wells while simultaneously trying to destroy themselves. They were the ones who had learned to cooperate only after perfecting the art of competition. They were simultaneously the most hopeful and most dangerous species I had ever encountered. And Mara? Mara was all of that compressed into one person, wrapped around a core of determination that probably could have survived a supernova through sheer stubbornness. So what happens now? I asked. We finish academy, get our commissions, serve the Galactic Council. That is the plan. She smiled slightly. But plans change, situations evolve. The galaxy has a way of throwing complications at you when you least expect them. Speaking from experience? Always speaking from experience, Krell. That is what the scar teaches. Every experience leaves a mark, whether you can see it or not. The question is, what you do with those marks. Do you let them define you, limit you, break you, or do you turn them into lessons, weapons, armor? I looked at my reflection in the viewport, at my forearms and color-shifting skin and all the physical advantages my species enjoyed. Then I looked at Mara, human and scarred, and absolutely unbothered by the fact that she was smaller, weaker, and more fragile than half the cadets in the academy. I think I understand now, I said, why Earth was so difficult to integrate into the galactic community. Why humans are simultaneously welcomed and watched carefully. You are not just survivors. You are competitors who learn to cooperate without forgetting how to compete. Careful, Krell. That is almost philosophical. But she was smiling again. Though you are not wrong. We are what happens when a species evolves under constant threat, develops intelligence and empathy and cruelty in equal measure, then gets handed the keys to faster-than-light travel and energy weapons. We are still figuring out what we want to be in this big, complicated galaxy. And what do you want to be? She considered the question seriously, her hand going to her neck one more time, fingers tracing the scar that had started this entire conversation. I want to be someone who uses these lessons to protect instead of destroy. Someone who remembers the cost of violence without being paralyzed by it. Someone who can look at this scar and see not just what I survived, but what I prevented others from experiencing. The station's evening cycle began, lights dimming throughout the observation deck to simulate night and give cadets a sense of planetary rhythm even in deep space. Stars became more visible, countless points of light representing countless worlds, countless species, countless stories. Thank you, I said quietly, for trusting me with your story. Thank you for asking. She turned to leave, then paused at the entrance. Hey, Krell. Tomorrow's exercise is zero-gravity combat simulation. Try not to get tangled in your own arms. That happened one time. It was memorable. She left, and I stayed in the observation deck a while longer, thinking about scars and stories and the strange paths that brought different species together. Somewhere on Earth, in mountains I would probably never visit, There was a frozen research station where a 15-year-old human girl had learned that survival sometimes meant becoming something you never intended to be. Somewhere in those same mountains there were probably graves of people who made the wrong choice when facing that same girl years later. And here, on Station Viridia, that girl had become a cadet, a teammate, a friend who carried her past like a weapon and her scars like medals earned in wars most of the galaxy preferred to forget. The mark on her neck was not just a scar, it was a statement. A reminder that humanity had bought their place in the galactic community with blood and determination and the kind of stubborn refusal to die that made them simultaneously inspiring and terrifying. A kill that took too long, she had said. But she had survived it, learned from it, become stronger because of it. And now she was here, teaching the rest of us that sometimes the most important lessons came from the hardest experiences. I touched the viewport with one hand, feeling the cold of space through the transparent aluminum. Out there, in the infinite darkness, there were threats we had not encountered yet, challenges we could not predict, situations that would test everything we learned in this academy. But we would face them together. Thoraxians and humans and Peltharians and Chitic and every other species that had decided cooperation was more profitable than competition. We would face them with all our combined strengths, our different perspectives, our unique solutions to universal problems. And when those situations came, when the impossible became inevitable, I knew exactly who I wanted at my back, a human with a scar on her neck, a story of survival, and the kind of determined smile that promised victory or spectacular failure with nothing in between. Yeah, we were going to be fine. Probably. Maybe. If we survived the zero-gravity combat simulation without Mara doing something creative that violated another dozen regulations, we would definitely be fine. The galaxy had no idea what it was in for.